What we have here is an exploration into smart home technology. It goes by Knob. However, don't let the simple name and clean design fool you. There's a lot going on here to elevate and guard your cooking experience. We'll get back to that in a minute. The Knob ecosystem consists of 3 building blocks, 2 pieces of hardware and 1 phone app. This project was completed for a mechanical engineering class, so we focused on prototyping the hardware and did not build an app. Instead, we hard-coded a couple demos in as a proof of concept. We'll share that to you later. On the left, we see the physical user interface, the knob. It attaches to your stove and allows both you, the human, and the app to control the temperature. As a safety measure, Knob can only adjust the temperature and turn the stove off. It cannot turn the stove on from an off state. Later in the video, I will show you how to install Knob. On the right, we see the sensor. It's an infrared camera attached to a battery with an ESP32 development board. The sensor and the knob communicate wirelessly, with the sensor doing the decision making and simply telling the knob what position to move to. This is a super simple look at what an app might look like. Keep in mind it was designed by a mechanical engineer. Let's take a quick look inside the knob. Taking the cover off, we see a central drive gear that rotates the shaft of the stove. Connected to that, we have 2 small motors geared to it. Also geared to the central drive gear is possibly the most important thing, a special continuous potentiometer. Geared 1-to-1, this gives us absolute position and allows the user to spin the knob around as much as they would like. Now the demo, and learning about some of the features while watching water boil. So installing the knob is actually really easy, and we're going to do that right now together. So the first thing you want to do is take your knob off your stove, and you'll find a nice shaft with some flats on it. Then you're going to want to take this little screwdriver custom made for the knob, and you want to turn the knob so that it's in the off position. And you can just check that it's off by checking the indicator is lined up with the off position. Now that this is off, we want to put the battery in. The reason we turned it off before putting the battery in is that one feature of the knob is it won't turn itself on. So if it knows it's off, once we plug the battery in, it should not turn itself back on. This makes it really easy to put on the stove because we know that if the knob is off, we put the stove in the off position, which is how we took it off, and then we're ready to go. So now you just force this on, just like so, and now it's in the off position. So if we want to make some water, we can simply put this on and then push the knob in and let it run. So now the knob is going to start cooking. It thinks that the stove is in low temperature right now, and it is actually low temperature. However, it won't get any updates because the thermal camera sensor right now is not currently on. So we have this little thermal camera right here. We have a Huzzah 32 board and a battery underneath it with these magnet mounts, and the camera sticks out right here. So what we're going to do is stick it right here up on the range of the stove, and now we're going to wait for the stove to get to boiling, in which case the knob will turn to low heat, and then we'll add our noodles, and then we will let it monitor cook, and when it's done cooking noodles, it will automatically turn off. Alright, we'll update back in a second. Okay, so while we're waiting for this to boil, I just wanted to go over a couple potential features we could incorporate if we wanted to. So the first thing is we could keep track of the temperature, and we could get some data from that. So we could get like the acceleration of the heat, so we could tell if it's going from cold to hot really quickly, or if it's going from hot to crazy hot really quickly. And we can sort of assume that if that's the case, then your pot's not on, your pan's not on, you've in that case left the stove directly on. And we can also just look at the max temperature and say, okay, the stove is 500 degrees, water boils at 100, it's obviously way too hot, and then we can turn it off in that instance too. And then another one that doesn't apply to this stove because this one's obviously electric, but if you have a gas stove and the temperature sensor is saying that there's no heat coming out, but our position from the stove knob is not in the off position, then we know, okay, the stove is theoretically on, but it's not producing heat. So in that case, the stove was turned on without the pilot being lit, and so it's leaking gas, or any other number of issues. It's taking a while to boil, so we'll check back in a second. Another thing you might be curious about is the fact that the water is boiling right now. I mean, a very small amount at the bottom, and you might be wondering, well, if it's boiling, then it means it's 100 Celsius, and so the camera should detect it and turn it to low heat. And you'd be kind of right. It is theoretically 100 at the bottom of the water, but because the camera's way up there and we have steam, my theory is that the steam sort of interferes with the camera, so maybe the camera is looking at particles that are bouncing off steam that's coming out. And so what I did was I had the camera on and was reading values, just having it spit to the serial monitor, and I waited until it was at a rolling boil, and then it took values at that temperature, and that was 85 Celsius. Nothing like watching a pot boil. So it's kind of ironic, because the whole point of this is that it will boil water for you, and so you can go cut vegetables or do whatever you want around the kitchen, and here I am stuck filming it, literally watching a pot boil, and it's taking quite a long time. One cool feature is it knows it's not boiling, so it will go back to higher temperature if you lower it. You can see it doesn't let me turn it down. Sometimes you can fight with the stove, it's kind of fun. Alright, it is at a sufficient boil level for us to put the noodle in. So we're going to put the noodles in. The timer has now started, and we'll check back in a minute. Okay, so the timer just finished, so the noodles are now done. Time to eat. Hey guys, if you made it this far, there is definitely something wrong with you, but I appreciate the attention. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and like the video. It helps a lot. Currently it's just my mom subscribed, so it'd be great if I could have more than that. You can find my project on Behance. I will post a link below in the YouTube description, and also to my website where you can find some of the other projects I've done. Have a great day.